Welcome to the BCS Digital Poverty Alliance event organized by the BCS Digital Divide Specialist Group. This is a very special event because the BCS and the DPA signed an MOU last year, and this is one of the things that we want to do together. Now, I'm not going to say too much words today. Why? Because we have Julia Adamson, who is the MD of Education. She's going to open this event, and followed by a few words from Jennifer, who will be representing the DPA. And now I'll hand over to Ruby, that will be chairing this exciting panel today. Okay, on that note, Julia, over to you.
Thanks, Freddie. Welcome, everyone. Just first of all, welcome to BCS. It's lovely to see you all. I know some of you quite well, so that's really nice. We've got another event going on in the next room to do with gender diversity in STEM. So it's been a really busy and interesting morning, so it's great to have this conversation now. So you're all very welcome. What strikes me at the moment is the narrative in government is very positive, very hopeful, talking about digital inclusion, having a digital inclusion strategy, wanting to make progress on that rapidly. So I think there's a real opportunity for everyone in this space to be thinking about how they influence the thinking, share solutions, and encourage positive action that's going to actually make a difference, rather than self-perpetuating action that's going to maintain the status quo. So what can we do to shift the dial? And digital inclusion for BCS is very much an intersectional, broad issue, which includes access, skills, motivation, trust, confidence. It cuts across lots of things, and within the education sphere, you know, it's having the infrastructure, yes, having the device, yes, having the opportunity for a lesson that's meaningful, being taught the skills that relate to something that's relevant and meaningful to you, and having opportunities to see how that connects to the real world, and feeling that you understand what it takes to be good at this thing, and that you belong in this thing. So inclusion, diversity, equity, and as well as digital inclusion, they're all sort of interconnected. So it's a really interesting 3D puzzle, I think. And for BCS, our priority is to mobilise our members. So it's great that we've got members here today that are part of massive positive action that's going on. And our relationship with the Digital Poverty Alliance has been about trying to help connect the dots. And Freddie is like the centre of the dot connecting universe for us all, I think, in sort of trying to make sure that we're not reinventing wheels, we're not duplicating efforts, sharing what works, we're sharing evidence, and we're connecting. Because none of this can happen as a centrally driven top-down approach. It's going to be grassroots and central levers meeting together in the middle to make this wonderful change happen. Sorry, multiple speeches today has like blown my brain. I cannot maintain what I've only got like 3 lines on my piece of paper to say, but I can't remember them. So yeah, what the wonderful BCS member community is huge. 70,000+ IT professionals working across all sectors in the UK and beyond. And you know, we commit to encouraging our members to get behind good evidence-based, user-informed programmes to bring what they can uniquely bring, their knowledge and expertise as an IT professional, whether that's technical expertise, licensing, understanding, infrastructure deployment, change management, user testing, whatever it is in that whole plethora of skill sets that IT professionals have. We want to leverage that, their tech passion, their capacity and their capability to supercharge the amazing work of others that are trying to tackle the massive, thorny, stubborn issue, which quite frankly shouldn't be one in this country in this day and age, but still is. So yeah, I'm really glad to be sponsoring and supporting this event. I'm sorry there aren't more people here, but maybe that's the weather. Maybe that's the time of day, but I'm
School
sure,
holidays.
I was saying we had a great conversation here last week. We had some HE colleagues talk about AI, a very small group, but it was one of the most powerful conversations where some incredible next steps are going to happen. So let's make sure we don't leave the room without collective, good, positive action next.
Thank you. And if I may just add one comment, the reason why we're here today also is that, like in any organization, if you don't have top-level support, it's not going to happen. So I want to thank you for being our executive sponsor of this specialist group, because without your support, there's so many SGs and branches in the BCS, right? So thank you for that support.
Thanks for including me.
Right, and before we jump to the panel, Jennifer, do you want to say a few words on behalf of the DPA? Because Elizabeth Anderson is not here, I'm sure you have a few words.
So I have some words on behalf of Elizabeth, our CEO. Thank you so much for inviting me today. My name is Jennifer Neely, and I'm the Development Manager at the Digital Poverty Alliance, or DPA. 1 year ago, the DPA and the Chartered Institute for IT signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. This signified the important role that tech professionals can play in finding sustainable solutions and formalized the commitment of collaboration between the DPA and the BSC to work together to end digital poverty. Digital poverty is the inability of an individual to access online services when, where, and how they need to. Digital access is essential, not optional, and a phone is not enough. 9 in 10 secondary school students need access to the online platforms to complete their homework, and 90% of jobs are only advertised online. Healthcare, banking, bills, and so much more require online access. In the past, libraries were thought to be a solution to digital exclusion. However, signposting people to libraries to use shared computers is not enough, especially in non-city locations where libraries can be far from home or only open in inconvenient hours. Digital inclusion is not about forcing people online, it's about choice. Digital inclusion covers affordability of devices and connectivity, skills and confidence online, as well as tech support, trust, and accessibility. It's been a busy year for DPA. We launched our Charter for Digital Inclusion, outlining 5 clear actions we can all take. Number 1, raise awareness of digital poverty. Number 2, digital skills development. Number 3, accessible services. Number 4, device donation. And number 5, partnerships for impact. So all organizations and businesses can read and sign our charter on our website at digitalpovertyalliance.org. Also this year, we've given out thousands of devices. This means thousands of households are online thanks to the generosity of individuals and companies donating devices and funding to allow us to do what we do. As well as updating our national delivery plan, it was an election year. Our key call was for a joined-up cross-governmental approach to digital inclusion with an updated new strategy, as the existing strategy was 10 years old. Minister Sir Chris Bryant at DSIT has confirmed a new strategy is coming, announced during the APPG for Digital Inclusion, now co-chaired by Dan Aldrich. The sector's lobbying has worked, but government alone cannot solve digital exclusion. This is why we must all work together: government, industry, charities, schools, and health trusts. Everyone can play a part. I hope that you leave today inspired with ideas of what you can do back in your organizations and communities. And if you'd like to work with us, let's connect. Thank you so much.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for those kind words. So, welcome everyone. You're here for our panel session. We're really looking forward to it. For the small numbers we have here, let's make this very interactive. So please, I'll be putting some questions to our fantastic panelists here. But before I begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Ruby Kaur. I'm your host today. My day job is I'm the Chief Enterprise Architect for Lloyds Banking Group, where financial inclusion is a very, very strong point in where we are today. So we all use banking apps, but can we all use them is the question. So digital inclusion accounts for lots and lots of areas. So I'm sure you've all got lots of questions in different areas. But let's throw some facts at you. Did you know in the UK, 2% of the population are digitally not online? That's about 2.1 million people that are not online today. And we have about, I think it's about 16% of the UK population that lack digital literacy skills. So what does that mean? That means that they don't have the means to be financially included, economically included, and also probably politically included as well if voting starts to go online more. So straight away, these people are being disadvantaged straight away from the get-go. And with all the work that we do in the specialist group and the work that the DPA does, we're absolutely looking at some real good life stories where we are helping society. And that's what our panel are going to be discussing today all about the lived experiences and what they are doing within their communities and in their own areas of exclusion. So let's introduce the panel to you. Really looking forward to the conversations. Should we start with yourself, Anna?
Yeah, sure. Hi. I think it's good afternoon now, isn't it? Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So thanks for having me. My name's Anna Samaya. My background, always been a woman in tech. So I used to be the CIO for Honda, looking after 28 countries across EMEA. Also worked for F1, led Formula One. Left Honda to go and work for KPMG, so spent 8 years leading technology for KPMG. It was at KPMG that I launched IT's Her Future. Google it, we've won 14 plus awards for the work that we've done around getting gender diversity, which I'll bring some of that to this panel discussion today. I left KPMG to go and start a portfolio career, so I'm now have my own consultancy business in the UK, US and India. I have also set up a social enterprise which is focused on getting untapped talent pools into, with digital experiences, into modern business and tech companies. And I'm also the chair trustee for a homeless charity in my local area, which is in Swindon as well.
Amazing. And have you any spare time?
No.
Judging by all of that list, I don't think you have much spare time.
But I think the key for me to leave KPMG was that I needed purpose as well. Yeah. And so part of the role is not just about earning money, although I need that for the bills, it's about giving back as well. And leaving KPMG, where I led the IT's Her Future programme, that was the thing that I missed the most. So that passion to make a difference doesn't go away. And so that's why I set up the social enterprise.
Fantastic. Welcome to the panel, Anna.
Thank you.
And next, Jennifer.
Introduction to follow. I'm Jennifer. I'm the development manager for the Digital Poverty Alliance. I think that's all.
Welcome indeed, and to yourself, Fiona.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Fiona Dawson. I am director of a health tech company based in Bath, so it's a nice West Country representation on this panel today, which I very much enjoy. I'm a BCS fellow, chartered IT professional and FedEp leading practitioner. I have been working in health tech for just over 10 years and predominantly in the mental health sector, so a really purposeful day job. But that wasn't enough, so by night I am part of an organisation called Bath Bridge, and that organisation has led in Bath the curation of something called the Bath Digital Divide Collective, which is representing citizens, organisations, charities within the city that are trying to address the digital divide within the city itself. Bath itself is a city of divided. It's a city of extremes, which I'll come on to in a bit later, but it has been a very heartfelt area to pursue and has complemented the work I've been doing with the Digital Divide Specialist Group. I'm the treasurer on that group, and I'm also on FTAC.
Super, so welcome to the panel. Okay, so let's kick off. We talked about the downside very briefly in my introduction about the digital divide and the stats of who are not online at the moment. We just heard your little intros. You're doing amazing work, okay? Can you now share with us some of the successes you're seeing with the work that you're doing in combating that big chasm we're driving at of the digital divide? I want to start with yourself first, Anna.
Yes.
What successes are you seeing?
So let me just tell you what is diverse IT talent. You know, when I was at KPMG, we did a big survey, which was 10,000 children, 10,000 parents and 10,000 teachers. And what was really loud and clear to me is there is this perception that a career in business and tech is really focused around coding, which I get, but I've never coded in my life, and I've had a very successful career in tech, and I wanted to change. I see particularly girls, but many untapped talent pools and diverse talent pools, closing the opportunities because the curriculum still enforces Python coding. My daughter's 15, still having to do Python coding right now, and doesn't want to go into business and tech because that's what she sees in the curriculum. However, they then start to close the doors of opportunities. And to me, they're closing the doors of economic empowerment and other opportunities as well. So I set up Diverse IT Talent, which is a 12-week program that goes into schools, primary schools, starts as early as primary schools, secondary schools, up to colleges and university and our communities. And it helps untapped talent pools to really go through from problem. So we pick a societal issue like food poverty or the elderly crisis, and we walk them through to be really good problem solvers, from problem solving all the way through to solution. And with that, they practice a breadth of careers. So they practice being data analysts, data researchers, interviewers, consultants, program managers. Of course, when you come to the ideation phase and the prototyping, you're touching on tech, you're touching on people, process, and technology. But the idea here is through practice, they will start to think that actually a career in business and tech is not just about coding. It's not in a dark room where you don't talk to anyone. In fact, it's very creative, it's very collaborative. You need great communication skills, and it's actually what the World Economic Forum is saying, the skills of the future are these digital skills, where I think women particularly are fantastic at them, but close the door of these opportunities. And so that's what the program is for. And our success has been, we started with a small pilot that I self-funded. We've now expanded into a number of schools. And this year we've got 500 people going through the program. I'll just look at my paper for some of the KPIs because the report's just come out. So we've had 54% from high deprivation areas go on the program. 44.6% are ethnically diverse. We've had 54% of women, 27% were neurodiverse, and 20% were eligible for free school meals. So to me, we've had great success. We worked to fund the program, because we're a social enterprise, we have to work with businesses. Businesses are the ones crying out for the shortage of talent and diverse talent. But it does start at grassroots and works all the way through, and so we do need businesses to get behind us. So some of our successes have been those KPIs. 96% of the people that have been on the programme have absolutely said before the programme and after the programme it has changed their mindset and perception.
Amazing, what a great success story that's been, and I can see your personality is really driving that through as well. So no wonder you've got no time to do anything else, but amazing stories there. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing those. So if I turn to yourself next, Jennifer, we're going to touch on those collaborations in particular that the DPA is having. Can you share with us some of those successes? Because collaboration is very, very key to ensuring that we're helping with the digital divide getting smaller and smaller.
So there's three main ways that the DPA supports ending digital poverty. The first is by providing devices and connectivity to families and to people. The second is skill building and skills workshops. And then the third is through advocacy and research. And so I think the easiest way to measure our success is through the amount of devices that we provide to families. And so we have a collaboration with Currys. They fundraise for us and provide us with the opportunity for customers to give micro donations of the till. And they support a program called Tech for Families, where we provide new devices to families. Of those devices, or of those families, we did a huge evaluation piece last year. We've started the program since 2022, and we've given out over 1,700 laptops and computers to families so that they can complete their homework. As we talked about, most children now have online homework. So prior to getting a laptop, over half of them were actually using a phone to try and complete their homework at home, which is almost impossible. Of those families too, 85% of them, it was actually their first ever laptop that they owned. And so they had gone through all of their education without a computer, without access to the internet or a computer, which is really, really challenging. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She's in year 2, and her homework is on Teams. Like it is really, the digital divide is just growing, and the digital expectations are increasing for children, even children who are very, very young. And so I would say that was our main success, is getting laptops into the hands of families.
Absolutely an imperative, isn't it? And I think just listening to you there, during COVID times, we really began to see the haves and have-nots in our society for education reasons. And that really came forward, didn't it? But amazing work that the DPA is doing, and it's great to be in partnership with the DPA. So Fiona, so the hotbed that is Bath, where it all happens, such diversity that goes on there, and you're very much involved with lots of charities and lots of groups there. But tell us about the work that you do there firstly, and also because we've got that wonderful term we're going to be hearing a lot about later, BCS in the community. So you are a fabulous fellow of the BCS, and you're absolutely flying the flag for the fellowship. Tell us about what you're doing down in sunny Bath.
Yeah, sure. So probably tell you a bit about possibly what goes on in our part of the world. So here in London, you've got Silicon Roundabout. In our part of the West Country, we call it Silicon Gorge. It's a very exciting place to be. It's a very exciting place. Lots of tech companies, lots of startups, lots of innovation, and very, very proud to be part of an organisation that's within that community, an ecosystem. Bath is beautiful, so this is my UK tourism piece. Please go visit Bath, it's really, really lovely. Great academic universities and a creative university, really fantastic place to live and work. But it is also a city that hides quite a dark secret. So the most stark statistic I find is that within a mile, your life expectancy decreases by 10 years. So don't walk along that road is my main advice, because you lose about 8 months every 100 metres. But it's the reality. In a city that has extreme wealth and privilege, there is also 2 areas of the city that are in the top 10% most deprived in the country. And unfortunately, they're largely effectively ghettoed, because that's how the city orientates itself, and you end up with the rightly proud communities that are often really struggling with some quite significant issues. And about 40% of all children on free school meals are centred around some really kind of areas in the city, in the local area. And nobody really recognises it, is fundamentally what comes down. So there are lots of charities and organisations that are working very much on the ground. But when it comes to something like digital inclusion, there's actually disbelief. The number of conversations I have where people say, but COVID happened and you gave out devices, so what's the problem? It's solved now, there's no problem anymore. And so a lot of my work from a BCS community member perspective is to really kind of raise the voices up of a lot of what's happening in the communities. And some really key messages that have come out is that first of all, a lot of the people that we work with and hear from are really clear that they don't see themselves as someone that needs to be pitied or thought about any differently. They're really proud people, and they want to have support and access to opportunities just like everybody else. What they're lacking a lot of the time is a voice, and what they're lacking is people's understanding and appreciation. So I've had conversations with industry executives who actually have challenged me on that there can't possibly be a family that I know of for whom their entire internet access, homework, everything to do with their life is orientated around one phone. So it's a family of 5 who basically take turns on a phone, and the children are 3 children under 8, and so the eldest is starting to do homework, so they're trying to do homework on the phone. The younger ones want to watch YouTube because they're children, and that's a completely normal thing that they want to do, and mum's trying to run all of her life, pay bills, all of that kind of stuff, all from a single device. And that's a reality for that family. Work with domestic abuse charity who have identified that providing Ring doorbells can be a really good way of helping people to feel and stay safe. what they hadn't realised was that for a lot of individuals, broadband is one of the things that they feel that when times are tight, that's something that they want to turn off. They want to not have that cost. As soon as you turn off broadband, a Ring doorbell very quickly just becomes a doorbell. And all of the safety provision that you felt you had disappears. And then we have, as everywhere in the country, we have refugee communities, and very well-meaning people have handed out devices and not provided the wraparound support. So went to visit a family who very kindly provided tea delivered on a laptop, using it as a tea tray. And simply because, I don't know if any of you have accidentally changed your phone into another language. It is terrifying for those brief moments where you think, oh my goodness, how do I get out of this? And I can't even Google what the words are anymore. I'm completely at sea. We'd done that with a laptop. We'd thrown a laptop in a language that they weren't confident in, and then made it extremely difficult to change out of that language, because actually often moving from a Western language pack on a Windows machine to a pack in a different alphabet is an extremely challenging thing to do, requiring multiple steps. So those are some of the challenges, and I'll share some other stories a bit later on, but what we have done is gathered around across the city lots of groups that have been actually doing pockets of interventions around digital inclusion, often joined them up together. So we found one organisation that had loads of people that wanted to teach people digital skills, and another group that didn't have any teachers but had a room and equipment, and they didn't know each other existed. So we said, you get together, deliver something. We've had lots of opportunities to really make sure the community feels very heard, and lots of learnings that have come out of it. And one of the key things has really been is that they have said, if you're going to be flash in the pan, if you're going to come in and spend an hour and we never see you again, don't bother. We don't want that. We want to know that something is going to be sustainable, it's going to be sustained, it's going to come alongside us and be supportive, and not just be something where you feel really great about a hero opportunity, but actually haven't made meaningful long-term impact. And so the Digital Divide Collective has really kind of centred around making sure that that provision is coordinated, that those volunteers and initiatives are orientated around those principles, and that we're joining people together to make sure we can make a difference. And the aim is to address the digital divide in its entirety in Bath. That's what we're going to try and achieve, because we think that it's eminently possible.
Amazing, and that is all stemming from being a catalyst in the community to be able to join up those different areas. And you touched on those issues and those challenges you're facing. And I was just going to come to the audience to ask, how close are we in the audience to knowing groups of people or actually individuals that you see are on the wrong side of the digital divide? We just have a show of hands if you know people. Yep, we've got a couple of hands going. So yeah, it's about half and half actually that we've got. And I can imagine that you guys are very passionate about wanting to do something to help break that divide. And if we don't know people personally, we feel impacted to do something as well. And that's part of what the BCS Digital Divide specialist group is all about, especially when we join up with all the charities. We should all feel empowered to be able to do something to help people in our community. I'm just going to ask the question, and Fiona, you touched on it already, about the challenges faced. You painted a really good empathetic picture, compassionate picture about what we can do personally to try and help. So I'm going to go down the panel now. So Jennifer, tell us about the challenges you've faced in the DPA and how you're working to address those challenges, or if you've not found solutions yet, where do you see where the next big challenge is going to come from looking into?
Thanks. I think our biggest challenge is that need outweighs inventory. So we have a huge waiting list of people who need devices. And I think the other thing, you touched on a little bit, Fiona, is that people always need new devices, right? You can't have a device 10 years ago and then think, oh, it's set, right? Children break devices or devices go out of date, or, there's, they fail after a certain amount of time. So it's ongoing. Even the people who we helped a few years ago are going to need to come back to us probably at some point. So our waiting lists are long. I think that the biggest challenge we have, though, is awareness, is really empathy and thought towards the digital divide and towards the needs for technology to say that people who are unaware of this movement to develop an awareness and understanding of how important it is that if you do have an old laptop, give it, donate it, or if you can fundraise for a charity, think about a digital divide charity to promote digital inclusion. So I think that's the main thing.
Just a question generally to the panel. Do you think it's a mindset shift in our society that we should be doing that? Don't be a disposable society where we just give away our laptops, our devices, and just get a new one without thinking of where it should go. Do you think we have got the wrong mindset at the moment? We need to do more.
I think we all have a responsibility to think like that in everything we do, whether it's clothes, whether it's computers, it's everything. The world is changing. We all need to be kind of mindset of our carbon footprint and people around us, I think, to be honest. But I also think we have a responsibility as charities to make that more visible. Yes. Quite often we're lacking budgets for marketing and branding and things like that to get our names out there. So using things like the BCS and getting our names out there about what we can offer is a great way of being able to kind of get the message out there as well.
Totally agree. I think all I would add to that is that in Bath, we really recognise the challenge that actually when you're working with a family and there's a really clear digital inclusion issue, you often want to be able to solve it there and then. And the wait list and all elements of that have been a real challenge because sometimes it can be a number of months, completely understandably later, that you can, and that family have moved on. They're often not even being supported by that same caseworker or intervention anymore. So we set up a Bath tech and data bank so that we could really quickly provision things. So we have a very small stock, but it can be very quickly turned around. And that was really important. But what we also held was the line about the quality, because with the greatest of respect and well-meaning, if it's in a drawer, and has been in a drawer for 2 years, and the last time you used it was when you dropped it in the toilet, nobody wants that. I'm telling you right now. Please don't try and give it to charities, because actually what we end up with is spending a lot of money recycling your old rubbish. That's not responsible. Dispose of that responsibly. Instead, just really respect that actually people need things that are going to be of appropriate quality, that are going to work, that are going to be able to work for a period of time, coming back to that kind of flash in the pan thing. Don't want something that's going to work for a day. They want to be able to utilise something that's going to work for a period of time. And that if it, please don't burden charities that are already trying to kind of handle a lot of this and to be effective with things that aren't going to help. So just respect those. When people say, is it this spec or above? Just please help them out with that, because that's also a responsible thing, I think.
Sure. Good points. To yourself, Anna, the challenges that you've faced into and overcome, just want to share a couple of those with us?
Yeah, I'm listening to both of you, and we're all sort of coming for the digital divide and the digital poverty in a different way. For my focus is making young people really recognise the opportunities in business and tech, so that they don't end up in poverty and they have economic empowerment and longevity and purpose. And the demand for tech is going up, but the supply of diverse talent is just not coming through enough. And with AI around the corner, and Robert Kurzweil saying 45% of our bodies by 2045 are going to be robotics, and I don't want men designing that for women. I want diverse talent designing these technologies and innovation. So for me, diversity really, really matters. It's what Julia said, it's all intrinsically linked. And so my challenges have been, when I talk to businesses, I've got some great sponsors, but I need more. A lot of companies want KPIs today. They're not, they want diverse talent and bums on seats today. And actually, our programme is about investing in the future workforce, the diverse talent workforce of the future. It's about building KPIs for the future, and it's about leaving a legacy. And so I need businesses to recognise that, you know, you have a responsibility to build the next generation and the future workforce. So get behind programmes that are investing in that talent force for the future. And, you know, we can't give you 7 people from ethnic minorities today, you know, but we can give you more as we build that pipeline of the future. I don't think there's enough government grants, if I'm honest. So I can go out there and see Innovate UK and other big grants out there for the next AI or the NFT platform or this, but the talent that needs to use that technology, there's very little grants out there for talent development, and I think the government and grant-making companies out there need to get behind the talent and invest in the talent as well.
Absolutely, and that is a very good point to make, because the question is, what do we reckon governments, public sector, private sector, public bodies can be doing more? So if I just move along to Jennifer, what do you think in your particular sphere that governments and public bodies could be doing more for the DPA?
I think, again, it comes down to awareness, but really policy, and also recognizing and establishing, identifying the need. That's so prevalent. Once you do any research, you find there's such high levels of digital poverty in every community. We just started a device donation program in Kensington and Chelsea, where we found that there's over 12,000 people in digital poverty, where and you wouldn't think that, right? Because it's one of the wealthiest districts. But yeah, so really thinking about how we can create an infrastructure where digital poverty is recognized and addressed. So similar to what you're saying, addressed quickly, and really schools identifying children who need support, or local authorities identifying and having an action plan to not just identify the children, but to say, and this is how we're going to address it. So really like you were saying, a wraparound, a follow through.
Full end-to-end picture, right. Yourself, Fiona, what do you think governments, public bodies, private sector, all of us could do much better from an organisational point of view?
I think number one for me would be being able to understand the problem better. And a lot of that for me stems to data. I think Lloyd's Bank Group and DPA do fantastic kind of surveys and understanding of asking good questions. But I think a lot of the national surveys are not able to ask the right questions, or are asking the question but without really understanding the kind of answers they're going to get. So asking if someone has been on the internet in the past, I think it's 3 months or something, is not a useful question. It's not really going to give you insight as to what that individual is facing on a day-to-day basis, or what their challenges might be. Because for the most part, people will have access to a phone, that will have had access to a social media site, and they will answer yes to that question, but you haven't really understood the problem in that question at all. And you mentioned your 2% stat. I would actually, in my experience, challenge that. I think that's way too low.
Yeah.
I think
So it's 2 million. Just over 2 million, yeah.
I think it's way too low. I think the and of course that depends on what you mean about the threshold around digital inclusion, of which there are many different factors and many different thresholds, but I think it is far more prevalent than we are yet really fully understanding. So that'll be point one. I think the second thing is that having a better appreciation across government policy, in particular in all areas that digital inclusion probably has some sort of impact. Education is a really, really kind of key one that you can kind of identify really readily. We've talked about homework, so the general understanding is that at Key Stage 2, a child is probably going to be starting to do their homework online. So that's about year 2, isn't it? At that point, if they start to fall behind, they will never catch up. Never. It isn't about putting money into attainment programs. If someone falls behind by the time they reach secondary school, that is done. And Bath has some of the worst attainment in the whole of the country, and we think a lot of it stems from the underlying digital divide issues that's being faced. So there is no point putting lots and lots of money into educational programs if we don't recognise that there's likely to be a digital inclusion element, and that will be across government departments. And then the third thing I would say is the kind of role of industry, and it's kind of a lot of what you're talking about, Anna, as well. we have had to educate ourselves locally and other businesses by having lived experiences. So just to speak very personally, something that happened to me was I had 2 candidates applying for an administrative role, one of which, we were having them online at the time, one of which was headset, perfect broadband, clearly on a computer, lovely, really lovely experience, really easy back and forth. The second one was she was on her phone, and the phone was very much up her nose, so I had a very clear nostril view, but not really a lot else. No headset, so just using the kind of speaker on the phone, and clearly on mobile internet broadband. And I had to talk to myself and my team to say, this is us experiencing the digital divide. We are not actually able to really compare these candidates in the same way, because what we are having is 2 very different experiences that aren't allowing the candidate to really kind of represent themselves very well. So being able to provide other offers, so making sure that as part of our recruitment process, they can have an in-person interview, that we are able to provide extra provision, to be able to support all of that, to make sure that they are aware about the kind of things that might impact an interview situation, and that we're helping candidates with that, and not just expecting them to know or to have access to that or to be part of it. And if they don't, just then using that as an exclusion criteria. But we've had to handle that ourselves. I mean, that should really be really kind of clear guidance that's available for organisations and support for organisations to be able to help them with that. And that's just a really small example, but it was a really kind of poignant one for me. And then the last thing I'd say is about what this means for the lives of the people that, you know, live and work and are part of our communities. A Bristol charity believes that if every family has 1 median salary, there will be no food poverty. That is so attainable. That is in touching distance, particularly if our industry is able to recruit talent from a really broad pool, and that we're able to make sure that we're addressing digital inclusion. And to think that those things are so closely linked and so possible, it just feels that for all of us, including policymakers and leaders, that we really have a responsibility to try and do what we can to make that happen.
I'd just like to add to that. So one of our sponsors is Coforge. They're a £1 billion consulting business. And they have asked me through the 12-week programme, bearing in mind, you know, we are working with people from really underrepresented areas, low socioeconomic backgrounds, may not have any GCSEs, etc., but they are the young adults of the future. They've asked me to find 5 talents, rising stars, that they can interview and get them into entry-level jobs. That is what we need. We need companies to start thinking about how we can change this, and not just have the fact that you need to have all these GCSEs and computer science degrees and things like that to get into big companies. For me, Coforge is a real trailblazer in this space, because they are saying we're looking for passion and potential, not just the academic side of things. We can train a lot of that as well. And I think that's what's going to change that attainment around the food poverty and the digital divide as well. So I think that's what private sectors can be doing in terms of just thinking out of the box a little bit and going, look, are we able to think differently to help these untapped talent pools into employability?
Absolutely.
And because they're so interlinked, small changes can have big impact.
Huge impacts, absolutely. That's a lovely way to round off this section. I'm going to turn to the audience now. We've had quite a animated, very free-flowing discussion here. But has anything prompted your thinking here? Any questions we've got? I've seen some hands going up, so I think at the back there, Dave. Would you like a microphone, or do you want to just yell? We can hear you.
Yeah, cool, thanks. So thinking about the financial poverty thing, so I'm thinking of an example with an acquaintance of mine recently, where the link between digital inclusion, digital ability and finance was brought home to me by someone trying to get a loan, trying to get some money, not being able to manage an overdraft, not being able to manage money generally. And the impact of the digital inclusion part of that was, now I'm going to be scammed by someone. I'm much more open to not just properly illegal scams, but by bad deals, bad banking deals, you know, high interest rates, because I've not got the ability to do the online thing, to get good deals, and the impact of that, I knew there was an impact of that, but the impact of that is so massive that even now, even in the past couple of weeks, that was shocking to me. So I guess the question is, who are the stakeholders in fixing that? So we can understand what the issue is going to be, but who else needs to get involved in addressing that kind of issue?
That kind, yes.
Who are the right people involved?
I don't think that all the right people are involved yet. I can speak because I introduced myself as coming from Lloyds Banking Group on this occasion. But as you know, Lloyds Banking Group put out the index for the poverty in terms of digital poverty and what we can do for it. So it's not my area completely at the moment, Dave. I'll have to put my hand up and say I don't know at the moment, but I don't think the right people are involved at this moment in time. And we should be bringing the right people into the forum, and the BCS, and I can represent, being only a year on the specialist group now for the Digital Divide, bring the right people together. And I think from listening to you, it's an education as well, isn't it? It's an education that these mobile phones, when they do have the mobile apps put on, financial apps, they are secure. You know, they're going through a network that's built on security as well. So that's the first thing that we need to educate people with. It's okay, especially if what age group you're in starts to, you know, I personally, I don't have my mother, who's about 80 now, on a mobile app for financial kind of transactions, only because I don't trust she'd know too well, and it would cause high anxiety for her as well. So there are certain classes of people that would not use, you know, financial mobile apps at the moment. But sort of back to Fiona's point about joining up the right people to educate. If us at the BCS are able to put something out that actually helps with that kind of dialogue, I think, albeit, let's do that. But that was a question to me, and I didn't answer it well. Okay, but
Quite a couple of...
yes, please do.
Going to probably make myself a little bit unpopular here, but at school I would have loved to have had some financial literacy education. Not you know, doesn't have to be massive, but just something that was just kind of part of it. And I think that this kind of engaging in the digital world and what it means, I think that could really complement that kind of education. So I think coming back to, you know, everyone's learning Python as a way of, you know, being part of a digital, you know, inclusion criteria. I think that's right. I think there's a broader spectrum here of engagement. And I think there's also the element of confidence, I think, and shame. So a bit like you, Ruby, I've got a lovely hairdresser, lovely woman. But I'm slowly over time just kind of trying to coach her out of what is essentially a massive fear. She has parents, and she actively prevents them from having access to the internet. So she's prevented them from having access to broadband, and, you know, all of those. And I see all of those missed opportunities for having video calls with, you know, grandchildren, all of those kind of things. But the fear is someone's going to scam them. That's the fear, and the best way I can protect them is to just keep them away from the digital world. And I think the more we can do to help build confidence and understanding, and also take away the shame from if you are caught up in a scam or something happens or you're unsure, these are the things that are absolutely the things you can do, and people will help you, and people won't feel any less of you. Don't think you're stupid. You're not an idiot. I have a colleague at work, an extremely tech savvy person, who was just scammed by a really good scam. They're really good, and you know, it happens. What we need to do is to make sure that people feel confident, that they feel like they can know what to do if that happens, that they understand how to look for these things, to appreciate them, and that they can kind of build confidence around it. And I think organisations are doing great work around that. But I think as BCS members as well, those are the kind of things we can do. You know, making sure we're not shaming people or making them feel like they're stupid, but just giving them an opportunity to just share information. We'll just be like, you know what, yeah, sometimes they're really good, these people, but here are some things that can really help you identify them and help them feel confident about using stuff.
Great. I'm just conscious of time, and there was another question.
So first of all, great panel. I be honest, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm really impressed, and thank you for sharing all the stories, because they really help bring it to life. Just two comments. One was in terms of, maybe it's addressing a comment that was made just now about mindset and donation of devices. And because I think, being a millennial, I think a lot of millennials are actually quite conscious about this, and they do want to make sure that their stuff goes to good use. And so, from my own experience, there was a period of time where I was running around to a lot of places, like trying to donate 2 laptops, but I just couldn't. And I finally found Currys, which is good. But then I wasn't sure if I could trust Currys, because I wasn't sure if it was like a Zara type situation where they would just dump the stuff in a developing country somewhere. So I think there's a bit of awareness building there as well. And then the second point, which was, so I work in the AI space, so very interested to hear your views of where you think AI will impact each of the areas that you work in. Because I see potential for both AI to increase and decrease the poverty divide as well. So I'd love to hear your views.
Yeah. Do you want to quickly give, because we're close to the end, do you want to just give a couple of sentences each? Where do you think, starting with yourself, Fiona, how will AI impact the work that you're doing in Bath?
It can't be ignored. It's going to change how we live, work, interact with the world. But I think there are a lot of people I see who are so far away from being able to understand or interact with it that really it's also about making sure that it's not harming them. So what are we doing around things like ethical practice and misinformation? They are, by their very nature, because the literacy is much lower, much more vulnerable to things like AI-generated images, as an example, and because often there is a lot less, reading of articles. It's much more interactive with visual media, much more propensity for misunderstanding to know that something can be generated, and understanding that kind of comes back to my previous points really about education, understanding, and empathy really about it all, and how do we help people to really engage with it well.
Great. Jennifer?
I agree with everything you said, Fiona, and I feel like I guess my mind is thinking about the combination of AI and scams and how that's going to totally take over all these scams in the future. But I think, interestingly, in terms of vulnerable groups, usually it's younger people or older people in terms of experiencing digital poverty. And I actually feel like, in some ways, older people seem a little more susceptible to AI and not understanding it than younger people. So thinking about how that might change, which groups become increasingly vulnerable over time is what's on my mind.
And I just come from AI is unavoidable, but without diversity in AI and programming AI, it's dangerous, it's not right. And for me, that is the most important. You need that diversity, difference of opinion and thinking to build those AI-generated models, as far as I'm concerned.
Excellent. Okay, Freddie.
Ruby, on behalf of the online audience, there's a question, yeah?
That's a question. Okay.
The UK government has commenced a consultation this week about the future of the NHS that is only able to be interacted via their online engagement platform. What does the panel think of this approach and its impact on digitally excluded groups?
Good question. Go for it, Fiona.
So I've told lots of stories today. Another story. In Bath, 2 things are happening at the same time. The first is that some major GP practice groups have moved to digital by default, so digital first, and the hospital is looking to do the same thing. We had 2 personal stories that were someone tried to turn up to a GP, so an 80-year-old lady turned up at a GP surgery to try and get an appointment and was told she must book it online. She said, I don't have any way to get online. They said, go to a neighbour to do it for you. Whilst at the GP practice. And that I find heartbreaking because I work in health tech, and that has never been the intention of technology within health, has never been an intended route to bar people, to create barriers. It is an enabler. It can be a very powerful enabler. It should be a very powerful enabler, and I fully support all of the policy elements that are coming in to make the NHS better at being able to digitally support people and to digitally enable. But we must make sure that we are not creating barriers, and we must make sure that the vulnerable in our society are not facing even more health barriers to being able to get health support.
Super. I think we're at time. Freddie, is there any more questions that have come in from?
No, but if I may make a comment just on the AI topic. Earlier this year in February, we hosted a webinar, a hybrid webinar here, where we have a lot of older people in the room. And what was really interesting was they were fearful before they came here, but by the time they left, they were so enthusiastic because they realized that it is something that they can do, right? Number one. Number two, to your point about millennials, guess what? From feeling that their life is over, they couldn't do anything, I'm just generalizing here, they make a very interesting comment, a few of them in the room, they say, wow, I have a responsibility to help the younger generation. You see, so you can see that it's such an empowering thing. So the message that I have for all of us here as part of the BCS is that our mission is to make IT good for society. So my view on AI is that there will be an element, a dimension of technology such as AI that can help us to solve problems like this. So let's find ways to do something about it. So,
Yes, I would just like to say a big thank you to our panelists. I think we've had such an enlightening discussion, and thank you for your contributions and your answers. I think let's go up down the panel one last time. Can we give just one word or two words that is our call to action to go out to people who want to get involved, whether it's in the skills, whether it's a DPA, whether it's in the community? What kind of 1, 2, couple of 3 words would you say to the audience if they want to get involved?
Mine would be just pay it forward with everything you've got, whether it's a mentor, whether it's getting behind a charity, pay it forward. You all have a responsibility to pay it forward.
Excellent. To yourself, Jennifer?
I think spread awareness. I think that it's really important if you feel like, wow, this is a really important issue, to tell someone about it, tell your family, tell your friends, and really increase that understanding and awareness of digital poverty.
Absolutely. And Fiona?
Digital exclusion exists. It is in your communities. If you can't see it, you need to look harder. And as soon as you see it, help do something about it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone.
yes. So Julia, if you may sort of close this event for us.
Yeah, so what a great summing up. So pay it forward, raise awareness, look for it, do something about it. I'd say, BCS's Digital Divide specialist group, Freddie, that you so eloquently lead, the opportunity that the specialist group has to influence the IT profession to do those things, both outward in their communities and their families, but inward in the places they work. So they are in the privileged position of influencing the design of those systems, the rollout of those systems, the interventions, the funding, the relationships, the partnerships that those organisations then go on and make. So both ways, do it both ways would be my extra add-on to that wonderful summary. So yeah, from me and from BCS, thank you so much to the panel and to Ruby for so expertly. And yeah, to all of you, and enjoy your networking lunch, and hopefully, new collaborations, new ideas, new things happen.
I also want to thank the people who join us online, and I just want to let you know that we're not going to be having some lunch and doing some networking. I'm sorry you can't join us that way, but at 2 p.m., please come and rejoin us, same Zoom link, to hear more BCS member in the community stories, because there are many people who wants to do something, so hopefully you'll take some inspiration from there. So thank you.
Thank you.